Hey y'all, Justin here. I sell stuff on eBay and make videos about it, and every month I do an AMA video where y'all ask me a bunch of questions and I answer them, and so that's what we're going to do today. Today we're going to talk about everything from buying pallets of inventory to giving an update on my automated eBay platform Flipwise to time management hacks, when to use auctions versus buy it nows, getting negative feedback removed, and of course how much money I make on YouTube and how that compares to how much money I make on eBay. If you want to jump around, check the description of this video. I'll put links to every question so you can skip ahead and find the answers to the questions that you want to hear about specifically. But I have over 20 questions to answer today, so let's dig in. So the first bunch of questions I got are all about Flipwise, which is the eBay automation platform that I built with my friend, and it's currently in beta. So we have a bunch of beta users. So we got a bunch of questions here. How's the Flipwise beta going? Any chance you'll be releasing it before the fall? Hey Justin, I'm a UK reseller. Can we have an update on the Flipwise beta? I'm struggling with Google Sheets and it can't come soon enough. There's another one. I'm getting ready to drop list perfectly and switch to Vendoo to try out auto delete for a better monthly price. I was thinking about trying out my reseller Genie also for the upcoming year. Where's your program stand in its beta testing? Any advice would be great. So the beta is going really great. We've got a bunch of users in there with eBay and with inventory management and sales data management. There's so many edge cases. And so when I was just using it with my own store, we caught, a lot of stuff and fixed a lot of bugs and made it work well. But now, we have hundreds of beta users in there and we have improved the platform so much in just a few short months. And so it's really grown. We have a lot of work to do still before we go public, but the beta is going really great. We expect the beta to be done and to be actually open into the public sometime in February is our goal. It may extend into March. But definitely no later than that. So we're getting very, very close. Another question, I'm getting ready to drop list perfectly and switch to Vendoo and try out auto delete for a better monthly price. Truthfully, if you're using Vendoo for cross-listing, Flipwise is not yet going to be a good solution for you. We don't offer multi-marketplaces yet. We don't offer cross-listing yet. That is in our roadmap. We're going to get there eventually, but we don't do it today. And so if that's something you definitely need, you'll want to stick with Vendoo for now. And then, we can let you know when we're handling cross-listing as well. You also asked, I was thinking about trying out my reseller Genie also for this upcoming year. And I think if you're using my reseller Genie now, Flipwise is going to be a pretty good comparable product for it. And so I'd urge you to give it a shot through the beta. The next question here is, how detailed do you go for sell-through? Should I list certain things on one platform and other things on another? How to cut the things bogging down your inventory? Should I make different stores for different niches? How can AI help me? So I'll just jump into all of these. So the first one, how detailed do you go for sell-through? So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by how detailed, but for almost everything that I buy, I check the sell-through rate unless I know it's going to be good and don't need to check it. But I check the active listings and I check the sold listings on eBay and I compare those two numbers. And so that's the sell-through rate, right? And so if there's 100 active listings and 100 sold listings, that's 100% sell-through rate. The data for eBay and the app goes back 90 days. So that means there's 100 active listings. That's your competition. There's 100 sold listings. So a little bit over one per day are going to sell. And so that's a pretty good sell-through rate. 100% is great. The higher the sold compared to the active, that's what you're shooting for. And so I don't really go any deeper than that though. The other question was, should I list certain things on one platform and other things on another? I don't have a ton of experience on other platforms. I primarily focus on eBay. I certainly list some things like on Facebook Marketplace that are larger and I don't want to deal with shipping. If you have specialty items, if you're selling sneakers, for example, there might be other platforms that are better for sneaker selling than eBay. Personally, I put everything on eBay, so I can't really help you much with that question. How to cut things down bogging your inventory. So I occasionally will groom some older stuff out of my inventory, but it's really about your own physical space. So if you have a ton of storage space for your inventory, that maybe you don't care about it being bogged down. But if you have, a spare bedroom and it's getting overcrowded with inventory, you probably want to go through that older inventory more regularly to cut down. I would just go through and I would look, and things that have not sold for a long time, I would recheck the sell-through rate. Maybe there's a reason it's not selling. If there's a ton that are selling but yours isn't, maybe you have it priced wrong, but maybe you just made a bad buy. Maybe it's not going to sell for a really long time and you just want to get it out of there. And that's a good way to do it. So don't just cut things, but do some research before you cut them. Make sure that they are worth getting rid of first. Should I make different stores for different niches? I think running multiple stores is going to add a layer of complexity to your overall management. It's not horrible, but if I was selling, one specific category of items and that was the only thing I sold and I was really trying to build up repeat customers, I might, throw everything together in one store like that. Your last question was, how can AI help me? I think AI has a lot of hype in the AI space. Certainly there are areas that it can help you a lot. I've been toying with the AI description in eBay. It works pretty well. I don't think many people read descriptions anyway, but it's a quick way to get words into your description that are fairly accurate. And so I've been using that and testing it out. I don't think it's had much of an impact on sales. I've messed around using ChatGPT for titles and things like that. But again, I think the value that you get from getting an optimized title is sort of offset by the amount of time that you're spending to do that. It's not well integrated into eBay, obviously. I don't know of any other listing tools out there that are deeply integrating AI in that sort of way. I just don't think it's that useful. I have not done extensive testing though, and so it may become more useful over time, but personally, I don't really mess with it. I find that just using my own organic human brain to come up with good keywords is a fair enough way to do it. So, but you should definitely experiment with it. You may find that it works better and increases sales. So definitely give it a shot. All right. The next question here. I hear a lot of sellers saying they list 5 items a day to get into the algorithm's good side. If this is true, does it need to be every single day, or can it be 10 listings every other day, or 15 listings every 3 days, and so on and so forth? Thanks in advance. I definitely subscribe to the idea that listing regularly and daily is a good thing to stay in the good graces of eBay's algorithm. Personally, I try to list at least a few things every day. 5 is my number. I don't always hit it, but I usually do. If I had a bunch of listings saved up that were ready to be published, I probably would not publish them all in the same day, and I would space them out over many days just to have constant new things going into my store. I would recommend the same thing. That's my recommendation. I don't have a whole lot of data to back any of that up, but I think it's good to be constantly listing as much as you can, as frequently as you can, and take as little time off as you can to keep that eBay algorithm happy. All right, the next question. I try to list 50 to 70 items weekly, but my death pile is slowly dwindling away on weeks I don't find as many items that I list. Have you ever bought pallets of inventory? And if so, what website do you recommend? So yes, I have bought pallets of inventory, but I've only done it locally, and that's what I would recommend to you. I think there's just so many scams out there, and you just never know what you're really going to get when you buy a pallet of inventory online. I'm not saying you can't find good deals or that there aren't some good people out there selling pallets of inventory online, but personally, I want to inspect what I'm going to get. But even doing it locally, I'm just not a big fan of buying pallets of inventory unless you really know what you're going to get. And so things like Amazon return pallets are really fun to open up and go through and be surprised by some of the cool stuff that you get. But it's almost like buying a giant mystery box. You just don't know what you're going to get. You may get 50 things that you can resell and make $5,000 on it, or you may get 5 things that you can resell. I just don't think it's worth the risk, really. I've gotten burned on some, even going and picking them up locally. They look like good pallets. I can peek in there. I can see some valuable things. Once you get it home and take all the stuff off the pallet, they're 75% sort of the sort of Chinese brandless junk from Amazon that just has no value on the secondary market. So it's really hit or miss. And I personally just don't really like buying Amazon return pallets, but I have bought pallets of like Kohler returns, and it's just 100% Kohler faucets and shower heads and things like that. And that's been really successful for me. So again, there's definitely going to be pallets that are better than others, but I would avoid the Amazon return pallets. Again, very fun to open, but not always the most lucrative. All right, next question. Do you ever try to test stuff out before you buy it, like finding an outlet somewhere, carrying batteries with you or something like that, especially if you know it won't sell for parts only? Definitely. Most thrift stores have a little area where you can take something electronic and plug it in and make sure it works. I definitely have taken advantage of that and used it. I've never carried batteries. That's a pretty good idea. I should probably do that. But yeah, definitely test the stuff out if you can. Some thrift stores, allow returns after they usually give you a window of time of a few days. If you get it home and the electronics are not working. So in those situations, I don't typically take the time to test in stores that allow returns, because I just take it home and I'm going to go back to that thrift store in a few days likely to buy new inventory. So it's easy enough for me to take that inventory back if it doesn't work. But I would definitely recommend testing stuff. Carrying batteries sounds like a good idea. Next question. Is there any way to add hidden keywords or SEO in the description if the HTML option is used? I don't think you need to worry about adding hidden keywords. I would suggest just adding relevant keywords and not hiding them. I think most search engines, eBay included, I would guess, have evolved beyond the point where the sort of hidden keywords are an effective tactic these days. And so I really wouldn't mess with any hidden keywords. I would just focus on making sure that your listing has relevant keywords in the title and in the description. There's really no reason to hide them. It puts into question, why would you be hiding those keywords in the first place? Is it because they're not relevant to the thing that you're selling? And if that's the case, like, why are you trying to get that sort of traffic to that to that listing. So I would just focus on super relevant keywords in the title and the description and the metadata as well for your listings, and leave it at that. I think that's going to be the most effective thing to do. All right. How do you manage your time so well? I don't. First, I have 4 kids, make YouTube videos, but have a full-time job. Between the kids, my job, and editing, it's almost impossible to be consistent. Any tips for managing editing, family, and work life? I wish I had the answer there. It's definitely tough, I find being, my way of being consistent is to schedule things. Like I'm sitting down and I'm doing this video and talking to y'all right now because I put it on my calendar and I said I was going to do it. And so here I am and I'm doing it. I'm going to sit down after this and I'm going to edit it and get it ready to go and publish out tomorrow. But I'm a heavy user of to-do lists. I use Todoist, which is a Mac application. I also keep a notebook around just to write other things down when I need to. But it can be really hard. I set goals. I'm publishing 2 videos a week. And so I usually publish one on Mondays and then one on Thursdays or Fridays. That means I have to have a set schedule for when I film those and when I edit those, and I put those all on the calendar. I put them on my to-do list. I try to list at least 5 things a day on eBay, and I put that on my calendar, and I put that on my to-do list, and so I can check it off when it's done. And so I just being organized about what I'm trying to accomplish on a day-to-day basis, and then grinding it out, getting it done. There's really no secret other than that. And so, but it can be really tough to balance all that, and still have time to spend with your family, and but it can be really hard. So I definitely commiserate with you there. All right, next question. I've heard other reselling YouTubers say that you could make a full-time living reselling from any small town. I'm from Montana, Helena specifically, and I'm wondering if you agree with this. Yeah, definitely. I think, you're in a smaller town, you're definitely going to be more limited in finding inventory than you would be in a larger town, whether that's going on Facebook, going to garage sales, going to thrift stores. Like there's just less of those things in less populated areas, obviously. But everyone is on an even playing field when it comes to sourcing online. And so I'm not a big online sourcer personally. Part of why I like reselling is the hunt. I like going out to these places and hunting around and finding things. And it's just hard to get that same effect when you're sourcing online. But tons of people are sourcing exclusively online, exclusively on eBay even, and making a ton of money flipping it back on eBay, or sourcing from a variety of other places online and flipping it online as well. And so it doesn't matter if you live in a small town or big town to be able to do that. And so you should seek out some YouTubers who are specifically doing that type of reselling content. I'm not, so I don't have a whole lot to offer, but I do agree with it. You can definitely do it. You can make it work anywhere. So next question, for eBay only, when you started, how many items were you allowed to list? How long before they raised that limit? Did it go smoothly? And currently, have eBay made changes to those guidelines? Oof, I'm a horrible person to ask that question, unfortunately. My current account dates back to 2006. I have no idea how many things I could list back in 2006. I have to assume that eBay has definitely evolved those guidelines over time, and I don't even know what they are right now. I've never looked. I think you can request to get more listings. I don't know, but look, if you're just getting started on eBay, I would focus on a couple things, right? Set up your eBay account. Work with the listings that they give you. Source all of your inventory from things around your house. Everybody has stuff in their house that has some value and they no longer use. So instead of donating it, instead of giving it away, list it on eBay. That'll give you practice. That'll help you with the listing process. It'll help you figure out shipping. You won't have to spend any money on sourcing, and you'll get money back to actually seed into those future sourcing trips. And so definitely do that. And I would check eBay's website. All that stuff's going to be documented pretty well. Unfortunately, it's just been, almost 20 years since I signed up for an eBay account. And so my information is pretty dated when it comes to that. What's the smallest margin you will sell for? I don't really think of it that way, to be honest. When I'm outsourcing, I'm not going to buy things that are only going to net me a few dollars, because it just is not worth the time that it takes for me to list and, photograph and inventory it and then ship it for only a few dollars. Sometimes I buy things and think they're going to be worth more, and they only end up being worth a few dollars. But if I'm out there sourcing and it's only going to make me a few dollars, I don't do it. I have a rule. It's not like a perfect math rule, but it's easy to do in your head when you're outsourcing, which is like the 3X rule. I don't know if I think I may have made it up. I don't know. It's not a real rule by any means, but if I pick up something for $10, I need to be able to sell it gross for $30 for it to be worth my while, for it to basically double my money. It's not perfect. it doesn't scale. The more expensive the product, the less that rule works. But it's just a good rule of thumb. Like, am I going to be able to sell this for $30 if I paid 10 for it? If so, like, okay, I'll probably make about $10 on it after all fees and taxes and shipping. So that's usually kind of what I have in my head when I'm out there. But I don't mind selling cheaper stuff. I like to keep things moving. I like going out and hunting and finding weird stuff. And sometimes it's just fun to buy unique, weird things that other people are going to seek out and want to buy out there. And, sometimes those aren't super expensive things. And so for me, it's more a part of the culture of what I like doing. All right. Next question here. Hi, do you ever get rid of items that don't sell? Yes. If so, how long do you generally wait? Depends. Thanks. So I do go through every once in a while, probably not as much as I should, but it really depends on your storage. How much physical storage location do you have? If you have a ton and you don't mind stuff sitting around, your tolerance for slow selling things is going to be higher. If you are selling out of an apartment and you are putting everything in the corner of one bedroom, you may not want to fill that bedroom up with a bunch of garbage. And so your tolerance is going to be lower for slower selling things, and you're going to want to churn through that stuff more quickly. So I'm really fortunate that I have a pretty big basement that a good portion of it is set aside for reselling specifically. And so I have things that are many years old. It just doesn't bother me. And I still sell things that are many years old. And so if I started to run out of space, I would probably care more about going through older inventory and getting rid of it. But right now I just don't really care that much. And so I don't get rid of a whole lot of things unless I'm just like, this thing is definitely not going to sell. I'm just going to get rid of it. But almost anything is going to sell eventually, I've found. I've only been selling on eBay for about 6 months. I'm retiring in 9 months from the trades, and I have a lot of tools that I won't need anymore. My initials are engraved on the tools. Should I sell as is or grind off the initials first? I don't want people to think that they are stolen. Well, that's interesting. Let's see. If I'm a buyer and I'm buying tools, do I care about that? Probably not. If I'm getting a pretty good deal on a tool and it has somebody's initials on it, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Whether it's grinded out or not, I think if you're like grinding the serial numbers off, that would be a little sketchy. But if you're just grinding off your initials, I don't think most buyers are going to care. I would just disclose that in the listing and make sure there's a picture of whether it's your initials still on there or you have used the grinder on them to get rid of them. Disclose it in the picture, make sure people know it's there, and let them decide whether they want to buy a tool with that on it or not. When you sell a personal item, do you put your purchase price, what you paid for it, or do you do market value? This is a really good question. I see this question pop up every once in a while. I'll preface my answer with I may not be doing what is right from a tax perspective. So this is not tax advice. You should definitely do your own research. What I do when I'm selling personal items is I even it out. I make it so that I make no money on it. And so after all fees, taxes, and shipping, if I've made $17.26 selling, this Yeti mug right here, I would just make my cost of goods $17.26 or whatever I just said, so that it evens out and I just didn't make any money and I didn't lose any money. So that's how I do it. But if you bought something, for $100 and you turned around and tried to sell it and, only made $80, you definitely want to record that properly because that's a $20 loss. And that'll lower your overall taxable income with the IRS, and you won't be taxed on that, that $20 that you lost. And so, all right, next question. My death piles are out of control. Welcome to the club. I only source on high bid auctions, and I rarely go to thrift stores or garage sales. I was wondering, because I have so much stuff, should I only be listing all the high dollar stuff first? Should I just donate things I might only make $10 or less profit on? I feel bad doing that. I like having a mix of both. Sometimes I might have a lower item someone is looking for. If the item is a low dollar and I see that the market is saturated, should I just donate the item? So a lot going on here, but it's all personal preference. If you don't mind making $10 on something and packing it up and ship it off, why donate it? You might as well get it out there. I think the part that stuck out of me in your question was, if the item is low dollar and I see the market is saturated, should I just donate it? Yeah, I think so. Like if you have an item that's only going to make you $10, but there's 1,500 listed and 12 sold over the last 90 days, like that thing is not going to sell for many years. You're probably better off just donating it. And so that's what I would recommend. Also, I know it's tax time, and as usual, I'm not prepared for it. I have my high bid receipts for the year, and I can figure out expenses, but I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to taxes. Well, I'm not a tax expert, and I definitely don't give tax advice. The only advice I would give you here is to hire an accountant. They're actually not that expensive. I spend about $250 a year on my accountant, and I get to send them everything. I can send them all my receipts, all my data, and they just make sense of it and put all the tax stuff together, prep it, and send it off to the IRS. And it's the best money I spend all year, and it's a tax write-off. So definitely recommend doing that. It is worth it. If you're making more than a couple $1,000s reselling, just spend a small fraction of that hiring an accountant to make sure that you're doing it correctly. It's just money well spent. That's what I recommend. Next question, how do you handle getting multiple offers, but at the same price on an item? I don't think that's ever happened to me. Wow. I don't know if I've ever had multiple offers at the same time, let alone multiple offers at the same time with the same price. So I guess if I did, I would just accept the first one that comes in if I wanted to accept it at that price. If not, I guess I would counter each of them at the exact same and let them duke it out to see whoever might want to take it. But I don't know, never run into that problem. All right, next one here. I had an item listed and I had 4 available. Someone purchased all 4 and the calculated shipping is way off. They charged the buyer not nearly enough. My dimensions and weight for 1 is accurate. Interesting. I think I know what you're saying. I think you're saying you had a multi-quantity listing and somebody bought all 4 of them, and you would have expected that it combined, the dimensions or at least the weight of all 4 to do calculated shipping. I don't know how eBay handles calculated shipping in that scenario. I never use eBay's calculated shipping. That's interesting. I could sort of see why that would be a problem, especially if it's a heavy item. I would recommend asking eBay directly. That's another thing too, is I think people run into all sorts of issues on eBay and sort of seek out forums or YouTube for answers, when actually calling eBay, if you can figure out how to get them on the phone, which can be kind of difficult. But once you do get them on the phone, they're actually very helpful. They almost always resolve my problems, and I almost always walk away feeling pretty good. If I get a representative on the phone who is not helpful, like I just, oh, thank you, have a good day, hang up, and then try again until I get someone who is helpful. And I have a lot of luck there. So I would just call eBay and pitch that to them. For this buyer, I'd probably just eat the cost. They already bought it. I wouldn't cancel the order unless you're like losing a ton of money on it. But yeah, call eBay, see what they tell you to do there. All right, next question. Are you 100% buy it now, or do you auction items? So I'm not 100% buy it now, but I'm probably 99.99% buy it now. I have an entire separate video on when to use auctions versus buy it nows. I'll link it up top and down in the description below. But yeah, I almost always use buy it nows, and very rarely do I use auctions. So yeah, watch that other video. I go into detail about why I use buy it nows all the time and rarely use auctions. All right, next one. I was wondering if you do mentoring. My girlfriend and I live close to you. We just started. Please let us know. Thank you. I don't do mentoring. People reach out to me about this every once in a while. I feel like it would just be very difficult for me to do it in a way that is valuable to y'all. Besides these, YouTube videos. These YouTube videos scale, right? I get to like record this one time and broadcast it out to thousands of people, and so that's easy to do. If I was doing one-on-one mentoring, I feel like I would just have to charge a lot of money to make it valuable for the end user and valuable for me. And it's just in this business, it's already hard to make money in this business anyway. And so I just can't imagine somebody wanting to spend hundreds of dollars for me to mentor them. And so I'm not opposed to it necessarily. I think it would be kind of fun, but I just feel like I would have to charge a lot to make it worth my while and make it possible for me to provide a level of service that would be useful for someone. And so I don't see myself doing it in the future, but maybe I'll figure something out. I don't know. All right, next question. There's kind of 2 related questions. What items are the most risky for negative feedback, and also how to get negative feedback removed? I'll just say, negative feedback as a seller on eBay used to be, really important to avoid. Now it just doesn't matter. If you're a upstanding seller and you do the right thing and you work hard and you do your best to make your customers happy and you ship things on time and you pack them well and you describe your items well, that's what you should focus on. If you sell enough, you're going to get negative feedback. It's just going to happen. It's unavoidable. There are people out there who just don't care, and you can't make them happy. And so the way I approach it now is that it's just going to happen. Who cares? This year I've gotten 4 negative feedbacks. Like, it hasn't impacted my business one bit. I've stopped even trying to get it removed. It's just not worth it for me. I just don't care that much, and it doesn't impact my business. And so I don't think there are any categories that are more risky for negative feedback. And there is a tool to get negative feedback removed. I forget what it is. I'll link it in the description below, though. It's pretty easy. You can submit it for removal. eBay will then look at it and say, okay, sure, or not. If your buyer is extorting you for feedback, that's a good reason to get it removed. But I typically don't bother with it. It just doesn't impact it, and I suggest you do the same. All right, the next question, do views on an item have any impact on sales? If I have an item with 100 views and no sales, should I be ending the listing and relisting the item? So I have another video on this as well. I'll link it up top and down below. But generally, watchers are not necessarily a good indicator of whether it's going to sell or not. I mean, everything's going to sell eventually. But I've got things with hundreds of watchers that still haven't sold. I sell things every day that have 0 watchers on them. And so it's just not a good indicator of demand or the likelihood to sell in any sort of specific amount of time. And so I don't think it's necessarily a good reason to be ending and relisting the item. By the way, I'm working on a video separately about the concept of ending and relisting and whether you should do it and how you should do it. And so I'll save a lot of my answers about that for that video that's going to come out in a few weeks, but I just don't think watchers really matter all that much. And I often end listings that have a bunch of watchers on it and they get a bunch of watchers on it again. So it's just not, I don't think it's really damaging at all to do that. So I think you can end and relist sort of whether you have a lot of watchers or not. I don't think it matters. All right, last question here. Are you monetized on YouTube? If so, do you think their payments, the RPMs are fair? And do you ever think you could make as much money on YouTube as your full-time job? So yeah, happy to talk about monetization. I've been monetized on YouTube for about 6 months. I think in July, I hit that mark. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in order to get monetization turned on YouTube. And that just means you start getting a cut of the ads that are shown on your videos. And so if I go into my channel dashboard here and into the analytics and into my revenue, and change it to lifetime, you'll see here that since July, I've made $7,708.35. And so you can see here, I've been publishing videos for years without making any money on it. And then, this past summer, I finally had enough subscribers to get monetization turned on. And there it is. And so, not bad. $7,700, over the course of 6 months or so. What is that? A little over $1,000 per month. Not bad, but honestly, the amount of time that I put into YouTube vastly outweighs the money that I make. It's just, I'm sure I'm making like pennies an hour doing it. So if you're interested in getting into YouTube, don't do it because you're going to make a ton of money. Maybe you will, but it's going to take forever. And so do it because you like making videos, because you like reaching out to people and connecting with them in this way. That should be your motivation for starting a YouTube channel if you want to, not because you're going to, become rich. And so I definitely don't make as much money on YouTube as I make on reselling. Let's take a look at that here. We can see over that same period. What did I say? July. Yeah. So in that same time period on eBay, I made $24,000. So that's gross. Again, that's not net. That's $24,231 versus, what did I say? 7,700 on YouTube. And so, I've made about a third less money on YouTube than I've made on eBay. So, all right, that's it. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching this AMA video. I've got a couple other AMA videos that I've done in the past. I will link them up top on both sides of my head over here, and you can check them out if you like them. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thanks.